You live? Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Talking Siege, the Rainbow Six podcast. Today we have several special guests. I believe everyone here is actually a returning guest. I am Devmarta and my co-host Skye is here joining me.
Hey guys, how are you going?
And we have several guests here. We have Magnet from Mindfreak. How are you going, Magnet?
I'm going pretty good.
We have Flea, who's a caster.
How you going, guys?
And of course the one and only Monkeyfist.
Hi.
Monkey needs no introduction, of course.
Oh, I'm too famous already. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I know. You kind of hit the big leagues, Monkey. So the main theme we are going to be talking about today will be the Invitational qualifiers, which we've had an entire super week of. We started off NA on Monday, Tuesday, then Wednesday, Thursday, finishing off the day we had Latin America. Next 2 days we'll have EU, and during that time, everyone in this podcast, except for myself, will be heading up to Sydney and preparing for the weekend, which is when the APAC qualifiers wrap up, and I'm sure we're all really stoked for that. So we're going to try and get some different perspectives on kind of what that will be like as an experience and how we think it'll be different to the past things, and do some speculating about results, which I'm sure Magnet has a few things to say about.
I might, probably will, yeah.
Yeah? Well, I mean, we could just start it nice and rough. Who do you think is going to win this weekend, Magnet?
Anyone could win, in my opinion. It's just who shows up on the day.
Well,
From
there's
my
only...
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a lot luck based, a lot who's playing really well on the day, but it's pretty much who's going to be showing up on the day. That's what I think.
So there's only 4 teams actually going to be at the LAN. Last time we had the APAC LAN for the Pro League finals, we had 8 teams, 2 from each region. This is only 1 from each sub-region. Mindfreak from Australia, ANZ. Norengo from Japan, who were previously Seed 1 at the APAC LAN. Mantis from Korea, who was Seed 1 last time. They also went to the Brazil finals because they took 2nd place at the last APAC LAN. And Cryptic, who was Seed 1 from Southeast Asia. You're saying anyone could take it, but who are you most scared about going into that?
At the moment, it's probably going to have to be Cryptic. Yes, we've lost to Mantis in the pod, but like, we've definitely been really practicing hard, and we've scrimmed Norengo, we've scrimmed Mantis, we've scrimmed Cryptic in the past, and at the moment Cryptic are the really challenging ones, just going off scrims, but that's maybe like 3-4 weeks ago. Who knows what they could have done by now. I know they've gone to a boot camp, Mantis. Yeah, so we'll just see what happens.
I think every team has had a roster change.
You guys are actually versing Cryptic first up, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
Ooh.
Yeah, we are.
But it's double elim. So
That's exactly what I was thinking.
it doesn't matter as much who you're versing first, because you're going to have to verse the top teams. Like, you're going to have to verse the strongest anyway. It doesn't matter. Even if you verse the strongest team at the start and get knocked down into the loser bracket, you still have a chance to make your way back up. Obviously, you want to be in the winner bracket because it's much easier, and you get the best of 3 advantage in the best of 3 at the end, which is just some super confusing format stuff that if you don't understand how it works, you don't need to. People just need to win matches.
Watch and enjoy.
Yeah, just watch and enjoy. You don't need to know that format.
And also, Magnet was saying that he thinks luck has a big part to play in it, but being double elim best of 3 the whole way, doesn't that kind of cut a lot of the luck factor out, or still luck can topple it?
It's definitely good. It's like a relief that there is double elim, but obviously the top team will come out on top. It just means you have a second chance if you do have some bad games or a bad day. And that's pretty much the good thing about double elim here.
So last time you played Mantis, you were slightly thrashed. I think it was 10-2 or something. And like, I don't want to bring up any traumatic memories or anything, but like,
I've got some slight PTSD here. Yeah.
but like, you were talking about luck and how like, when it comes down to matches where you don't know what to expect, like I'm sure going into Mantis last time, you didn't know that was what you were going to come up against. And then that happened. And you were knocked out straight away for it.
Yeah.
You-
Okay. So we did not know Mantis really were gonna be that good. So we had a really good day Saturday. We did not get enough sleep. We weren't prepared. We were really flat on that Sunday, which is like not good leading up to an event. Like none of us were thinking straight. Not making excuses here, but this is basically like the hype compared to both days. It just wasn't there. We just weren't prepared for Mantis at all. Even if we were like mentally prepared, like just their play style, we weren't used to it. They were just playing so much better than us on that day.
A lot of people speculated that you guys were overconfident leading into Mantis after you guys beat Norango, I think it was on your first day. A lot of people have said that you guys were overconfident. Do you feel like you were? Have you guys learnt? If you were, have you learnt that lesson going out of it and going into the next LAN? Like,
Definitely, yes, we were confident. We try to be confident with the games we go in. It's just underestimating Mantis. It was just underestimating them. Like, you can't be going into a game thinking that you're going to lose. Whether you think you can, you think you can't, you're right. You just got to have that mentality.
So on the subject of that, like, you in a game which is so reliant on gunfights like Siege, obviously aggression and confidence in your gunfights is what turns the table in each individual encounter. How do you balance that with getting cocky and getting punished for that? Like, there's got to be some balance somewhere between those two.
When you sort of say like gun battles, the better team will not have one-on-one gunfights. There'll always be crossfires. There'll always be someone backing up, someone ready to refrag. It's just like team confidence more than just like self-confidence, if that makes sense. Like, you just can't rely on yourself all the time. You need to play as a team if you want to win. Pretty much at the moment, teams with good teamwork at the moment will win Australian scene, because at the moment, from what I've seen from even the last playoffs, no one is really at our level yet. They're all just playing solo. I've seen clips from like other teams' comms and stuff, and just there's a massive difference there at the moment.
I guess sort of moving into obviously this LAN, and not so much talking about the last LAN, do you feel if you were to come up, obviously we said you got Cryptic, but let's say you had to proceed and verse them, or maybe verse them in the loser bracket, do you feel more confident versing Mantis?
At the moment, yeah, our new lineup, our new everything at the moment is really fresh. Like I said, we'll go into a game confident, but I don't think we'll be that different to last time. We know how good they are. They've been to like Sao Paulo now and stuff, so they've definitely got some things prepared for us as well.
I actually have a question about how Mindfreak operates. How much of an impact does Dizzle actually have in how you guys play? And at LAN, is he going to be on the comms with you guys 24/7, or what's the go?
So last LAN, even though he had a headset on, he had a mic on, he was not allowed to talk to us at all during the game. He was only allowed to say a couple things in between games, which sort of sucks, but like he can see everything, so it's better just to let the players and the IGLs do the work. Dizzle he's like very mentality. He's very like helps mentality pretty much. He just makes sure everything's going well in scrims. He's there, just keeping everyone on check, keeping everyone motivated. Yeah, it's really good to have him on board.
One of the things that Canadian said to us when we had him on the podcast, because we asked him about BKN, obviously the coach for Evil Geniuses, and he gave a really similar answer to what you just said. Basically, Canadian said the way that they think about it is it's Canadian's job as the captain in IGL to keep his team with the positive attitude and keep his team in check. And then it's the job of BKN, the coach, to keep Canadian in check, because he's the one that's most likely to get tilted. And, you know, it's the coach's job to keep the IGL in check. And it's kind of...
Yeah, that's spot on. Yep.
Dizzle's the Aussie BKN then.
Yeah, well, you could say it like that. Take it how you will.
I guess. Oh, sorry. I guess going into this LAN with the double elimination format, do you feel that that's gonna sort of change? I know obviously this is getting really technical, but do you think that's gonna change the way you play, or you're still just gonna go into the same?
Definitely won't change the way we play. Everyone's going for the win. Like, yeah, you get a second chance, but you just gotta play it out how you go. But the only difference would be if you are in losers bracket and you're falling behind. It's just the pressure you could feel in that losers bracket versus if you're in the winners bracket, say. Yeah, I don't know. You just got a really big sense of security if you have a double elim when you are in the winners bracket, but pressure's on if you're in the losers bracket.
Yeah. So like you were saying, you're always like, there's no point where you're like, oh, this doesn't matter as much. So like, it's not like there's some strategic way to proceed through a double elim that gives you an advantage. It's just the same as always. You just want to win every single time. You want to win every match. And it reminds me of like every interview that's been had with Wilkie from ENCE. He was like, yeah, we just take it one round at a time. Every time. It's like there's no meta game across rounds. There's just, you win this one and then you win that one, and you want to stack up as many wins as you can so that you get the overall win. That said, surely...
Exactly right.
Yeah. That said, though, surely double elim has some kind of effect on. Surely it has some kind of effect on like your attitudes going into like a match where you have the security, versus a match where you're going to get eliminated immediately.
I mean, either way, you don't want to lose. Like I said, they're not really different, in my opinion. Yeah, you got more pressure, but that's about it. You're still wanting to win. Take it round by round, take it game by game. You still want to win. That's it. That's the end of the day, what you want to achieve.
And if the pressure is mounting on, how do you prevent yourself? Like it's your job to keep everyone else from getting tilted, and it's Dizzle's job to keep you from getting tilted. But if Dizzle's not there because he's, they're not allowed to speak to you during the matches and stuff, how do you keep yourself, keep going, and like how do you keep that persistence going and the attitude and the hopes up high and all that? How do you keep going from round to round if things aren't looking good?
A big thing is like bouncing from one another, like keeping the hype between each other.
So
otherwise, just So you go, Monkey.
I was just gonna say, like, one thing I noticed with the Mindfreak boys at least is that a lot of you guys actually have like a lot of natural high energy. Like, you're always on a caffeine high, and Lasty can get there too. Riz Raz and Kings have that long-standing synergy, so I suppose that would kind of keep you guys hyped up. Like, I still remember last LAN when you were just screaming out Harambe in the middle of the round. It's just,
Synergy plays a massive part right now. If you can't get along with the team, then you don't trust them. You can't play with them. You can't win.
Yeah, and like I've been trolling through clips for some projects I've been working on, clips of LAN and stuff, and I keep coming back to those clips where it's like you sit next to Pun and going like, oh yeah, and like giving him the
knuckles.
There you go. There you go. The fist pumps and and stuff like mid matches and stuff like.
There is also a picture somewhere of Hawk evil-eyeing a hug between you and I want to say it was Lusty.
It was Pun.
Pun, was it?
Yeah, he was a bit jealous, but it was good. Really good time.
I guess that we'll sort of almost wrap up your little bit here, Magnet. Obviously, Mindfreak you've brought on Riz Raz. How do you feel, I guess, to a deeper level that Riz, obviously, he's a good player and whatever, but I guess more technically, sort of, what does he do for the team?
So first of all, the synergy between Kings and Riz is already there. They're pretty much entry fraggers, and I come up for the flank. But basically, his gun skill is there, his game knowledge is there. He's just a really overall great player. Just another frag and roll. And basically everyone in Mindfreak really flexible, so we're able to adapt to things really well. But Riz was we needed someone more flexible, we needed someone more aggressive, and he's pretty much the perfect fit. And he has been doing really well right now, as you've seen in the qualifiers and whatnot.
So, go for it.
I was gonna say, going into the LAN this weekend, is there any team that you feel is below the rest that are going to this LAN? Is there any team that you feel would be easier to verse than anyone else? You said earlier that you think everyone's pretty close, and you're feeling pretty confident. Is there?
I don't know if I really want to
BM. Oh, your mic's just cut out, Magnet. We've just lost your signal. Yep, this happened. Yeah. Oh.
Okay.
There you go.
We're back.
Yeah, we're back.
So, like, they're all the best in their own regions. I don't want to say anything because anything could happen at LAN. So we'll
Don't wanna
just
eat
leave
your
that
words.
with. We're all pretty close right now.
With the shifty man videos.
Okay.
You know that if you say something and then you get proved wrong, you're just going to get clipped and put into one of Shifty's memes.
Pretty
So.
much, yeah.
Well, I mean, like, looking at it as a whole, though, like, Cryptek for a really long time had been regarded as a driving force in the entire of APAC. And, like, they went to Montreal as the PC team when they were known as Envy. And they lost, obviously, Shinbagel. Now they have Hysterics, who was formerly for Unique Monster. But they still have a really strong lineup. And you even said that you thought that they were a really strong team. Having scrimmed Nora Rengo, you've also had a taste of what they're like, and typically teams that you've scrimmed are teams that you're more comfortable versing because you know what you're getting into, rather than like Mantis last time. You didn't know what you're getting into, which is why you were taken aback. On top of that, Nora Rengo is a team that you beat last time. Obviously, it was 2-1. It was really close. And I'm sure that as your team will have gone back and, you know, practiced over stuff and improved, I'm sure Nora Rengo will have done the same. So there's, you know, potential for some, like, I guess, close competition there. And then Mantis, I guess, still a little bit of a wild card. Mantis feels so removed as, like, part of the Korean region, so removed from a lot of the other regions. I mean, you said you scrimmed Nora Rengo. Is it that far off to try and scrim Korean teams as well?
We've scrimmed all Asian teams. We've scrimmed Mantis, we've scrimmed Aura.
Okay.
We've scrimmed teams everywhere Asia.
Have you ever?
Yeah, it's just impossible to scrim ANZ teams because it's just 5-1, 5-0. You're not learning anything.
Yeah.
In scrims, you want to lose. If you don't lose, you don't learn, pretty much.
So, have you looked into scrimming Latin America, North America, EU, like the powerhouse regions?
Yeah, we have, and we've been playing some NA teams recently.
Mm-hmm.
Although the ping is a big factor of why we lose, and also, well, we do win, we do lose, but ping is just really annoying to deal with.
Yeah.
But you're not going to go into a scrim with NA just complaining about ping. You're going to see what they do, see what you can learn. It's just really good to see how they push. They do a lot of different things and just their playstyle. Good to adapt to. You can use it against the teams you can beat. You can use it as just knowledge to adapt to whatever other teams could be doing, if that makes any sense.
I actually have a question about scrims. Have you guys ever thought of changing the format of a scrim and not playing it like you're playing a competitive match, but saying, you know, we're going to set it up for 2-minute rounds, right? We're not going to switch sides. You guys can pick this same bomb site over and over again, and we're just going to grind it, and we're both going to learn off each other from that. Like, wouldn't that be a better way to learn?
So basically, instead of doing that and setting up like lobbies like that, we just do maybe one map 3 times in a row, and then another map 3 times in a row. You could 5-1 the team, they could 5-1 you back. It's just all about adaptation, and then at the end, it's a close game. Yeah, I don't think anyone really wants to just go through the same bomb site over and over again. You could be like, you don't set up a scrim just for that one reason. You do like cover a lot of things when you are scrimming. So
yeah, like you can do it several times in a row, like with different bomb sites. You on defense, them on attack. So you can like keep what you did last round in fresh in your mind and adapt on it straight away, rather than having to wait, you know, 5 more rounds later potentially.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's a good idea, but I don't know if we'll ever actually use that. Purely because of differences between teams.
I'm just picturing right now seeing a clubhouse armory lockers attack like 10 times over. Just no. I never want to see that.
Bleeding.
I never want to play that.
That's what we see when we cast anyway.
I know. I'm so sick of clubhouse. Good damn.
So, leading off that is when I was coaching, I initially tried to get coaches in to watch scrims to record them, and then you know the coaches share the VODs with each other, right? It was met with a lot of negativity in the scene. There was only a couple of teams that was willing, and at the time, Dizzle actually rejected the offer, right? So moving on now that you guys are looking internationally, has that viewpoint changed?
Not really. It just depends on the team. Okay, let me start again. I got distracted. So
I can see the head coming in from this.
It's pretty much if you let teams watch your games, then they should let you watch their games. I think when Diz did reject your offer, it's purely because we wanted to hide our strats, and that's usually why teams don't want to get their coach to watch. Diz does watch a lot of our games, but it's just up to the enemy team whether they want to let their strats be seen, how they push, whatever. But you're not gonna let your we're not gonna let Nora's coach watch a scrim between us and Nora, purely because we're gonna verse him soon. But it's just who you're versing and whether they want the enemy coach to watch or not.
But like,
And that's why scrim partners are quite important, isn't it? Like, you find that team that you're willing to share everything with.
Yeah.
And scrim them lots.
Yeah.
like it does help the team drastically, right? Having that sort of input and that critical thinking being put into it, especially when you put the when you get to watch the VODs as a team and you get to point things out and have feedback and input and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you not think that the benefits outweigh the cost of someone's going to know my strat? Like, because especially on a lot of maps, like most of the strats are so well known, right? It's rare that you see anything drastically new come up.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Other than that, we haven't really rejected anyone wanting to watch our games. But you're exactly right. Like, the game doesn't really change that much at the moment, so I don't see why you wouldn't want a coach to watch the game. But at the moment, when we do scrim, like ANZ teams who just want to see how we play, get a feel, see if they want to practice a lot, it'll be like Diz watching us versus them, and at the end, I'll go in with Diz and just give him some pointers. Because some teams are actually really motivated right now, and like in the last qualifiers, you've seen I think it was Corvidae, Onyxian.
Mm-hmm.
Corvidae is struggling against Onyxian. Like, new teams coming up is really what I want to see right now. The gap in the skill gap is diminishing at the moment, which is good.
So, on that subject, we just had NA qualifiers where the top 4 seed out of the open ladder got kicked out in quarterfinals of the playoffs, and like that's a massive deal. And in the end, spoilers, if you haven't watched it, I'm spoiling it for it. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Flipside got knocked out. Rogue got knocked out by Reckless, who are a team that's a Challenger League team with Foxer, formerly of Excellence, which is now known as Error. Error have picked up Supra and Bosco. I don't believe Bosco used to be an Error. And it was Error versus Reckless in the finals for that last spot, and Error won it. So Error are a Pro League team, but nonetheless, it was a Challenger League team versus a non-top 4 Pro League team in the finals. And it's like so many Challenger League teams are coming up and above. And spoiler for the Latin American ones that I've been enjoying watching today. We just had Lanchonete beat out BRK, and BRK beat out MOPA. So there's all of these titans falling to all these teams that I think it's just like the skill gap is closing, and I'm so excited to see that, and I really hope it happens in our region as well.
I might be wrong, but I think I heard Intero say that the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds got knocked out before finals, I want to say. So there was no 1, 2, 3, or 4 seed in the final.
For NA.
There was no
NA.
1 seed. The 1 seeds got knocked out in semis.
Yeah.
I might be
Latin
wrong.
Latin America had the last first seed in their semi, and that got knocked out when MOPA fell.
In terms of that, though, like, I've been finding that Siege is not a game that's solely relies on your skill, and every time the better team's going to win. Sometimes, as Magnet was talking about, luck comes into it, and it can impact a game in a massive way. Like I was saying, I'd equate Siege to soccer before. He disagreed with me. But like in soccer, you can have teams that like absolutely dominate the game, but they don't win. Like I remember reading some statistics, like Celtic beat Barcelona 2-1 or something like that. But Barcelona had 90% possession and like 30 shots. But they just couldn't score, and Celtic in the end won, even though they were a lower tier team. So, and like that kind of thing can happen in Siege. You just get lucky with a frag and a spray or something like that, and you can find yourself in the lead and the other team's just tilted or something like that.
I think that the tilt is definitely not to be underestimated. I agree with you very much on that side. I mean, when you're saying that, it makes it sound like you're saying there's a lot of luck involved. I don't think there's as
Not
much
tons
luck.
of luck. It's just
Yeah.
if you don't get the frags on the day, you're not going to win.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
The game is
but,
easily
like,
punishing
Yeah.
if you don't show up with your 100%. And then, like, if you come up and you're like playing at 60% yourself, and you're like, we know that we're like the second best team in our region, and we are just losing terribly, and we feel like we're playing at 60% of what we think we're capable of. We know we're capable of. Then not only are you already playing bad, but that's going to affect you and make you play even worse going on, because you're just going to get so tilted out of your brain. Now that said, we've had all this really good competition in NA and Latin America. EU quals are tomorrow, so we'll yet to see exactly what the outcome of that is. What do you think that the ANZ region or the APAC region needs in order to kind of bring that level of competition up? Because you can't just say teams just need to start sticking together and getting better, because, I mean, that's not realistic from a community perspective. So what does the community as a whole need to kind of foster this as it grows and develops?
I think like even in like other esports and such, like you don't often have an Australian team at the very top. Like, you know, for example, in CS we've got Renegades, and they're like, I think, top 20 team, but they live in America. They're half American anyway, and I think that's a lot to do with the population of Australia. Like, there's less people are going to have that drive to build those teams. But then again, you look at Australia as a sporting nation, and we do quite well on the international stage, and I think it's more of just to do with the amount of population that's playing. So if you get more people playing, you can find those, you know, gems in the rough and build up those strong teams, and that's when you can start competing very well on an international stage.
My look at it is we simply just need more time, right? Like, we're still in our infancy. We've had a single pro league. This will be the third event that an APAC team is attending. Montreal will be the third event. How many more events has there been? Like, we have very little events as an APAC region outside of the major events. ANZ does a lot of things with our ESL Cups, Cybergamer Cups. You know, so and we've had, I think, 1 or 2 tournaments off our own back as well. So I think all we need is just a bit more time. We're getting there and we're developing. And I agree with Magnet. You're seeing the skill gap close, and it's been closing for a long time. And I think the fall of Corvidae is probably the big mark of that. I mean, I remember playing when Royal was absolutely untouchable, right? They were the top team. They were absolutely untouchable. No one could. If you got one round off Royal, that was insane. I remember playing them in ranked and getting them to overtime, and everyone just walked away thinking we basically won the match. Like, even though we lost it, like we walked away so happy with ourselves. Like, and you know, so that skill gap is absolutely closing now, and I think given a bit more time, we will close that skill gap on other regions, and I think we already are. Like, I remember watching the NA playoffs and just seeing some of the crap that they did, and it just didn't make sense to me. And I was actually sitting there thinking, if Mindfreak were in that, or Cryptic, or another APAC team, they probably would have won the match. And I think that skill gap's already closing. So I think given time, just naturally we'll develop ourselves.
What's your 2 cents, Magnet? We cannot hear you, Magnet.
Pretty much.
Oh, there you
Okay,
go.
can you hear me now?
Yeah. We're good now.
The iTunes song's playing again in my ear, but
Oh, God.
basically, we're not going to really develop much more as a region if we don't start playing the regions. Yeah, we got to play Asian teams, we got to play other teams. Otherwise, we're just going to be stuck down the bottom. No one's going to really look at us at all. And actually,
also,
go.
I was just going to say, like, bigger prize pools is also going to create more competition, and like that's why I've been particularly surprised with CG actually putting in $1,000 for each CG ladder season now. So you know, that's only going to help grow the competition. You know, overseas trips, just the prize pool is going to motivate people, and I think that might be something of rather than just the pleasure of playing and winning.
Something that I've found interesting, and I'm interested to hear your guys' take on it, is theoretically, obviously, right now, the rest of the world has more lands than us. But theoretically, moving forward, if things keep going and we do get more pro league seasons, then we would be having more lands, right? Obviously, the other teams, right, they have online finals, whereas for us, because of APAC, we need to have land finals because of the distance. I guess. Do you think that sort of is going to help APAC as a region develop quicker, just because we're simply in the long run going to have probably more lands?
Magna, are you okay there, dude? Is
Yeah, I'm good.
it the song? Is it?
No, it just my manager just came on for a sec.
Manager.
Do you have a 2 cents on Skye's very serious and well thought out question?
Yes. What was just give me a few words for the question, I'll answer.
Are we going to develop faster because we're going to have more lands because APAC's so big we can't play online as much?
Because we have to play on land for the finals.
More lands. Well, it's just about like there's not even that many teams right now that are really competitive. Yeah, the skill gap's closing, but there's still only like 3-4 teams that can be really competitive with each other.
But do you think that gap is going to close because we have to have more lands just because of our geographic area? Do you think that skill gap's going to close faster than what it has in other regions?
Yes, but it's not like it's going to happen
Overnight.
at the moment. There's just not that there's just not a lot of people playing Siege this competitively. Sure, it'd be great if we could have a lot of lands, but it depends on if teams have to pay for to go, or if Ubisoft or ESL are going to send money to send them out. Yes, it would increase competitiveness and skill gap reduce, but I just don't see that happening right now in the future. In the near future, anyway.
Well, at the very least, we are going to... Because, I mean, one thing that people forget, right, is you want to treat ANZ as a region like NA or EU or Latin America and say, well, NA have 8 teams in their Pro League, 8 teams in their Challenge League, and then enough to make up... Well, there was like 70-something teams on the open ladder. We don't even have close to that. Like, we don't have 8 teams in our Pro League. We don't have... Most of the teams in our Pro League no longer exist. We don't have a Challenger League. We never have had a Challenger League. And we wouldn't be able to fill up 70 spots on an open ladder if that was offered to us. However, APAC as a whole is a bit of a different story. If you count how many, next Pro League that APAC has, there's going to be 16 teams who are technically pro teams playing in Pro League. But, if you say that, okay, well, some of them are, below a skill level, maybe you can kind of condense that down to, I guess you could say, rather than like a sub-regional Pro League, if you did like an overall Pro League, who are the top 8 teams overall, that's basically kind of like an equivalent to NA. I mean, this is a really confusing and long-winded way of saying it, but basically, what I'm saying is, in NA, the top 8 teams go into the Pro League, and you call them all of the pro teams in NA. Whereas in APAC, there are a lot more pro teams overall, which is why that overall, the average skill is much lower. However, if you only take the top 8 teams in all of APAC, which is, the 2 from each region, in theory, I think it's much more competitive.
Yeah, well, I suppose even if you just look at ANZ as a whole, like our open ladder on CG has 40 teams, and NA can get 70. Like they have a population that's 300 million or something. We got 20 million.
Yeah.
And I suppose the skill in these ANZ teams is going to be a bit more spread out, I suppose. So, yeah, we can get up there competing. It's just we need more people playing games and more.
More people.
Just more, yeah. Like a better prize pool, more incentive to actually play good and win rather than just play for fun.
The way I think about it is there's kind of all these different entry points, right? So there's an entry point into actually being, hey, I play some video games, to I play Rainbow Six Siege. I play this specific video game, right? And then there's the entry into, I have played some form of comp Siege. Whether that's I would even count a pickup 10-man on CG. I would count that under this category. Like the first time you're entering into the comp community. And then there's like I play seriously in a comp team. So, I do scrims a couple times a week and maybe I compete in the CG ladder. And then there's the next level. I compete at the top level, the Pro League. And there needs to be an entry for people and to every level of that in order to keep things going well. So at the moment, we have a decent way of people entering in from the I play in a competitive team to I play in the top level because we have 8 spots in a Pro League that people can play for and fight for a prize pool. That's pretty settled. It's in the hands of Ubisoft in order to get more people to actually buy Rainbow Six Siege and play it, but I think we can definitely do a lot more to bridge people from just playing casual and ranked into actually participating in the comp community. And I think that's something that R6 ANZ as a Discord server and a community does really well, but can aspire to do well even better. Thoughts?
I sort of agree with that. Sure, but I think something else is also awareness. Like, I remember back when I used to play, obviously, would have been like level 50 or something, and we sort of had the classic ranked team, where you put your tags on and you go into ranked. Like, we had no idea what CG was, and I think if we had known, then we would have probably started competing in CG and obviously CG cups and all that good stuff. So I think it's sort of spreading the word as well.
Fortunately, we've had Magnet DC, so you're going to get to enjoy watching this beautiful, beautiful layout of Discords for a moment until I manage
Completely ruined.
Yeah, completely ruined. You know how much time I spent doing all that? Now I only get to look at my face. Once Magnet gets back, you'll get to see everyone else's face.
There was a there was a big drive, probably about a year ago, maybe a bit shy of that, maybe 9 months ago, that we did that, and we tried to implement every time that we were playing ranked. It was expected of the staff at the time. If you ran into a team of 5, you said, "Hey guys, come join the ladder." Right, like join the CG ladder, start your way there. Join the R6 ANZ Discord, and you go from there. And it was expected of us to invite, the teams that put up a decent fight, and that could really go out to just basically any player. If you find even a 5-stack of casual who just seems to do decently or takes the game
Sweating a little bit too hard for
seriously,
casual.
just invite them in. I think that if that falls down to every player who even if you want to watch the scene, if you want to watch the scene develop, if you're a supporter of a team, it benefits you to have more competition for that team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people don't
I
really.
suppose,
Yeah, go.
To really make an esport flourish, it has to be supported fully at the grassroots level. And so maybe Ubisoft could try and do more at the grassroots level, like advertising it more in game, or like having some I don't know, even like what COD has. I don't know much about COD, but don't they have game battles or something like that?
Yeah, game
where you can all
battles.
sign up and play against each other on a night. Like,
Yeah.
that would be good, like something held through the Rainbow Six client rather than through Cybergamer or something like that. Just something, get your 5 stacked together and see how you do or whatever.
Definitely.
That would probably be a bit better.
I definitely think that something that's been said over and over again is that Ubisoft definitely could do a better job of supporting it within the client. And people say, "Oh, but you see that little news banner at the bottom that says Go Fours are on?" Like, that's nothing. No, who clicks on that link? If you click on that link, it takes you over to it opens up a web browser. Like, no one wants to do that.
Honestly, I think it comes down to Ubisoft just needs to their esports department just needs to do a little bit more, right? Like they're working hard with the pro leagues in Montreal at the moment and things like that, but they need to do a bit more with online tournaments and not just go fors. If even if you just hold free tournaments for R6 credits, right? Like, there doesn't need to be that much of a prize pool. It just needs to be, here's a tournament, here's a sign-up day, this is the day it's going, like, these are the days it's going to run on.
Even if they just say 100 credits for playing a match, like,
Yeah,
that'd be good.
Yeah, I think it definitely needs to be supported. Like Ubisoft could do a bit more, and I think they need to look at some of the bigger games around them and some of the games that they want to emulate, right? Because Siege is not the biggest esport in the world.
by any means.
So many people have said it is a fantastic game and absolutely could be, but it needs to look at its competition and learn what they've done. Particularly look at their competition in the early games. Look at CS:GO when it was struggling and how it turned itself around and how it became as big as what it has. Look at League of Legends when it was in its first 2 years, and how they promoted esport and how they got as big as what they are. Look at Dota. Um, look at how these things developed, right? Because they weren't always as big as what they are. They started somewhere, and the esports division decided to do something and decided to run something. And quite often than not, it started with little community things with crappy little prizes like in-game currency.
Mm.
And I think if they ran a few more online of those, then it wouldn't be. Then they'd probably find, and if they advertise the crap out of it, they'd probably find that people would come and join them.
Yeah. Well, Skye, do you have something to add on that?
Yeah, I think just even like I think a very good example is the Overwatch League, which the inaugural season started today. And if you go on Blizzard's client, they've got like a tab up the top. They've got a little window similar to Siege, but it's on every single game page. And then as well as that tab, like it really can't be that difficult to do. And I think that it would create such a beneficial impact, right? Like CS:GO, I guess, if you look at the amount of players that play that game, and then the pro scene, there's not as much, obviously, but then the Siege, it's even smaller, simply because obviously the player base is much smaller than CS:GO. So I really think they need to start pushing to try and get, I guess you could say, awareness of the pro scene out there.
And also, I think the longevity of a game really depends on how well their pro scene is going as well. So, like, for example, like CS:GO, would it still be as big if it didn't have such a big pro scene? Who knows, but I don't think so.
But you need to
No way.
keep your. It's a snowball effect, right? Like you need to keep your
exactly.
top-down players, your highest level players happy. Like when I played Halo 3,
This day
it's part of the reason that I know, right? Back in the
man.
day, it's part of the reason that Halo 3 failed is what it was. Like Halo 3 was so good, but all the generals, which was the highest rank at the time, stopped playing because they didn't have anything to do. They didn't have anything to do. They didn't have anything to achieve for. So then all the colonels, which is the rank below, all of a sudden they had nothing to strive for, nothing to achieve for, and they stopped playing, and it snowballed down and down and down. So I think, they definitely need to look at how to keep the pros engaged, or else, they will leave, they'll go off to different games, and then it'll have a snowball effect down the run.
Fortunately, I think Siege are in the position of having the opposite at the moment. I think that we're getting a lot of pros from other scenes, and I hope that continues.
I just want to quickly point out Vapo's point in chat here. He says here, and this is completely true, that the CS:GO menu, 90% of the menu is event advertisements, Steam listings, news, information, whereas only 90% is the little buttons that you actually get into the game. And then he says the Siege menu, 80% of the menu is just a 3D render of new ops. Like, there's so much wasted space that could be used for advertisement.
I mean, obviously, it's probably pretty easy to argue that the Siege menu looks more aesthetically pleasing than the CS one, but at the same time, you can make it utility. Like, you can put the utility on there of like all of the advertising for the events and still make it look nice.
Yeah,
Not gonna disagree.
I agree that the menu could definitely be more optimized and the space could be used better. I think if they showed there's a very interesting thing that League used to do where you could actually watch top tier ranked games that were going on at the time in your scene. So there'd be 5 games that would be going on, and you could flick through them, and if you saw a name that you wanted to watch or something like that, from like, it was only the high top tier players that could do it. You could go in and just start spectating the game. Why can't we have something similar to that in Siege? I think to implement it though properly, they'd need to rework their spectator client because, you know, we know how bad that spectator client is and how many issues it has, how frustrating the limitations can be. So I think if they did something like that, it would definitely grow some interest as well.
It just needs replays. Is that what you're saying? Like just really good demo replays.
Not even replays. They need to expand. Obviously, more than one person can spectate a match. I think that the fact that that is still in there is one of the biggest things that's holding Siege back at the moment. Is the extreme limitation they've placed on spectator.
And the thing that bugs me about the spectator is, it's pretty obvious. Like I'm pretty sure that they understand that's an issue. I don't think that it would be that difficult to implement. And if it was that difficult to implement, then why can't they just chuck a post in Reddit and say, at least tell us that it's difficult to implement? Like, yeah.
Honestly, hey Magnet, welcome back. You missed some riveting conversation. We've been talking about kind of Siege as a whole, not really promoting from the ground roots up the comp scene. We talked about the main menu, just not really incorporating that enough. And Skye just made a remark about the spectator slot, and I completely agree. They finally announced that there's been some changes to the spectators, but that announcement, yeah, I mean, don't get too excited.
Okay, I get you. Yeah.
No, not the spectators at the LAN.
Like
just
casting, like
the caster camera.
Yeah.
The observer spot. But the thing is, these changes are just simply a reskin, a slightly more streamlined reskin of the operator panel that shows you on the left-hand side of the screen, that just shows you what equipment they've got and all that. And the only other thing that it includes is a reskin of the top bar, which in my opinion looks utterly rubbish. It looks like shit. Like, why?
You sound very British when you say that.
Utterly rubbish.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Look, I'm not even the one from South Australia here, Monkey. I don't even say dance like you do.
I don't say dance.
Why wouldn't? Surely no. Surely no. All right. Never mind. Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, the thing that one thing, two things that would be so awesome. Like, look at it. Even PUBG now has a replay system where you can go back and watch your past matches and have a free cam. Why doesn't Siege have that? Why can't you save spectators
Hell,
and go?
Broodboard had it back in 1998.
Yeah. Like, I mean,
Like,
if
is it really that hard to put in?
honestly, if PUBG succeeds in something as a technical aspect more than your game, you've done something wrong. Because PUBG runs like shit, and it's been so much trouble with the technical issues in that game. And I mean, Siege now has to catch up to that. And the other thing is having a second observer's position for online matches would be really helpful, because currently we do have it on LAN for player hosted, but not online on dedicated servers. And on top of that, go.
Which is what gets 90% of views.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I mean, there's not that many viewers. Like, the comparison of online to offline is so much more online, because it's just unfeasible to have it all offline. And the other thing that Squizzy pointed this out in the chat earlier, why isn't there a pause function in dedicated servers? We had one on player hosted. You used to be able to player host your own match if you were, doing dry runs or something, right? And you could pause it whenever you wanted. But now you can't.
Yeah, just give it a cooldown so someone doesn't pause a match forever.
Yeah.
Like, just say you can pause it for 5 minutes and then it restarts automatically or something.
Imagine all of the rehosts that would get prevented by being able to pause for 30 seconds because someone's DC'd because their computer's crashed, they boot it back up and they get back into the game. Like, it'd be so much faster. Everything would be so much cleaner.
Or maybe you
It's
can
not
rejoin
hard.
as a spectator. That would be glorious too.
They need to
if you
like
try
follow
to-
CS. Sorry, Monkey. But yeah, Siege just needs to follow CS of how they cast. Even just like a touch screen for the camera people, like they could just touch any operator at the top and it'll just go straight to whoever is playing that operator. I think would be great. But yeah, if they follow CS more with how casting and stuff goes, I think it'd be much better.
I think that, I mean, even as a caster, I don't give enough credit to the observing tools that we do have. I mean, the camera controls are not actually that bad. And like you were saying with the touchscreen, technically you can do that, I believe. Is it with the function keys? You can flick to any.
Yeah, 1 to 0, you can switch between operators.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
like that's
you can
that's not that bad.
swap from 1 to 0.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't use it. I actually use a controller just because I personally find it easier when I'm solo casting. But if you use a mouse and keyboard and you're an absolute god like Skye or MC, then you can actually like use it to a really high standard.
I also think maybe with Siege, it's not as like clear cut as to what's going to happen. Like in CS:GO, like the map's flat, you can see where they're going, just looking at the mini map, right? Whereas in Siege, anyone could be anywhere at any given point, really. Like defenders can go anywhere in the first 45 seconds. So like, whereas in CS:GO it starts and you know where you're going to have these point contacts through the map, so that's where they're going to be switching to. So that makes that a bit harder, but I don't think it's the defining factor.
So like we have like the top-down bird's eye view, but we don't have like a free cam head level view. Like we can't kind of like, for example, I'm just picturing right now in my head Chalet. Really typical encounter. You know, it's a trophy take. There's someone pushing in from master bedroom. They've taken master and they're peeking the long angle onto the chimney or the big pillar, right? That's like a really typical encounter. Just say, like, I'm just picturing right now, imagine instead of having a bird's eye view of that or through the player's eyes, if you had like a slightly offset free cam that could kind of hover around, you could sit it in the fireplace, you could get a nice view of all the different players, things like that. I mean, it might be difficult to operate, but surely not that difficult to implement.
Yeah. Again, this comes back to, I think, Siege's spectator mode is just so rudimentary. You can tell it wasn't thought about when they built the game up. It seems like a bit of an add-on because it's so undeveloped. And I think Ubisoft needs to seriously sit down and look at it, because if it doesn't improve, I don't think the hype for watching Siege will stay there. If the experience for the viewers isn't there, I don't think the hype won't stay there for people watching it.
Well,
and that comes with the tools that they have at their disposal.
I saw something on Twitter, I think it was Helby, he was tweeting about like, he was watching some other esport and he could pretty much instantly gather what's going on. Whereas like you watch Rainbow Six, you watch it from first person view and flicking back and forth, you have no idea what part of the map they're on if you've never seen it before. You have no idea how what relates to what. Whereas, you know, if you watch it top down, like you can really see, well, obviously this corridor connects to this room here, and that's where this person is, and the other guy from that team is as well. So that might, I think, maybe be a bit better to have more of an over-the-shoulder view, so we can see more clearer from above. I don't know. It can be quite confusing if you've never played Siege before or something.
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And also, going back to sort of the spectator, I think Ubisoft they're sort of putting it to the side because it's such a small amount of people that use the spectator cam and obviously cast. But I think that it has such like it really means a lot more because of how many people can view. Like at one time, like obviously we recently had the finals for the invitational qualifiers. So obviously NA Latam and EU will be tomorrow, and there's obviously thousands of people watching. And I was trying to watch PUBG yesterday. That is impossible to watch and understand what's going on because there's no team tags, nothing. But I can imagine how, if I was new to Siege, how it would sort of feel the same way.
Well,
even though there's obviously team tags, but it could be difficult to sort of navigate the map and all that.
every time I talk to someone who's new to Siege in one way or another, like for example, we talked to Ben Green about this, and I've talked to people who just like don't have experience with the game at all and don't have experience with shooters at all, and at every level of like people's familiarity with the game, and like they don't know what's going on. It's the hardest thing about Siege. Even Ben Green, who's like professionally hosts esports events for a living, he would look at Siege and he wouldn't quite know what's going on because Siege has such a steep learning curve. You have to know why that wall's being opened and why they're pushing up there and why this is so significant that there's this tiny drone going in and shooting this red canister on the wall. Like, there's such a high learning curve already in the game. And if you add to that the fact that, like you were saying before, Monkey, I think you really put it well, it's so difficult if you don't, like, it's map knowledge is a requirement of understanding what's going on when you're in the first person camera view. Because you can't see where all the players are, and if someone's just holding an angle onto a doorway and you don't recognize where that player is standing within the map, then you have no context for what's happening.
I think another factor that comes down to it is you only get the first 3 letters of a pro's name. Like, I think maybe they need to expand it out a bit more so it shows the full name of the player under their operator pick, or maybe
Even
down
if they
the
just
side
have
or
them on the
something
left
like
and
that.
right hand side,
Yeah.
like they do in CS, like that would be so much better, I reckon.
Like, it's so hard for people to follow a player around because they only see the first 3 names of the first 3 letters of their name. I think that was a pretty poor implementation.
Funnily enough,
into the Siege watch, but
that's one of the things I've never had an issue with, except for those bloody teams that put their team tags on the front. But, like, that's the only time I've had that an issue.
I tried to get everyone to put their tags at the back.
Yeah, why? Every
we were
time
casting like a whole bunch of new players and everything about 6 months ago, when there were like a whole bunch of new players.
I still run into ranked 5-mans that have clan tags at the front, and I'm just like, dude, you can't do that to me. That personally offends me. I feel personally violated by this.
I think maybe Siege would be better viewed top down.
Yeah.
For the most part, and only go first person in some situations. I was watching Lockdown. Was it Lockdown? No, it wasn't Lockdown Loaded. It was you guys remember Tiny Dancer or Breaches and Cream? He went by a few names for a while. He told me to watch some natural selection too, so I'll pull it up, right? And it is a first person shooter game with one person who's got a top down view, like directing them where to go, and the caster was top down the whole time. And I kind of figured out what was going on for the most part. So I suppose Siege, like as an esport, could be more of seen as this is how the strategy is working. You can see the timing between the teams rather than their first-person shooting gun skill. Like I suppose that's something I'd like to see implemented more.
I remember actually doing some of that when we first started casting, and actually getting told by ESL specifically to cast in first person.
Well, the thing is,
right, and doing a lot more first person stuff because we kept going back to third person. In like big event rushes and things like that to get more angles and see what's going on a bit better, and we were specifically told to do a lot more first person action because that's how the game's played, that's how people want to watch it. And I haven't tried recently, but I remember ESL making a massive deal about it in the past.
I don't actually recall that.
Well, I mean, I can see.
Maybe it was just you, Flea.
Maybe they were just like, this guy's keeps spectating the cams. We just need him to spectate the gunfights instead. Anyway, memes aside, like what? So, like, the thing is, the spectator cam, like the overall one, the bird's eye, gives you so much information. Like, it makes it so much easier to access. As for the overall pushes and stuff, like you see, oh, okay, so there are 4 players over there, and there's 3 there, and there's one guy who's kind of roaming off over there. Like, you get a better idea of the game as a whole. But the problem is, as soon as a gunfight comes out, you want to see those nutty shots in first-person view, because every time that there's a bird's eye view of a fight and people are getting kills, I just feel so unfulfilled. It's not interesting. It's not exciting. You need the first-person flicks and like those really nice shots, and you need to show off all of the players' individual skill. But at the same time, if you spend all the time in the first person cam, then people can't access the game very well unless if they just think of it like a COD, like, oh, one team got a kill, that means that they're doing better. But the problem is there's only 10 people in a round that can actually get kills, so it's not as fast paced. It won't keep you going forever.
I remember I was casting an Atletico game, like, not that that's relevant, but like it was like the last 10 seconds on Clubhouse, and it was like a 3v3 or something like that. And I was in the third person view for some reason. I was struggling to get back to the first person view, but it ended just like that. And if I was first person view, I would have had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
But I got a bird's eye view of these trades going left, back, right, center, whatever. And I thought that was a much better way to watch that kind of thing rather than, be first person, watch someone die, fall to the ground, and
if
the
it's
round's
5v5
over.
and you have 30 seconds left, absolutely. Like that 30 seconds is going to be mental. Switch back to that third person because it will 100% be so chaotic that you won't be able to make out what's going on.
That makes me think of... Oh, you go, finish.
Some of the best stuff I've actually seen is off of cameras. right? Like spectating someone who is spectating a camera and they see the action go down. It's been some of the best shots I've had as a caster.
Like you see a drone going past, and
And
on
I
the
wish
drone
we
you
could
see someone get
access-
shotgunned.
Yeah, and I wish we could access the drones and the cameras separately from the players. I think that would be fantastic. Being able to watch, the action from a camera that hasn't been destroyed or something like that, or a drone that's sitting off to the side.
This guy's saying it. You know what he's up to.
He wants the
He
cameras.
wants
He wants the cameras.
Jesus Christ.
You always bring it back to the cameras, Flea. No, but like,
maybe,
yeah,
maybe
Skye.
not even that. Maybe like, have like almost pre-placed camera spots of like the pinpoint main
Observer
spots of the map that only obviously the casters can see from that mode. Let's say like maybe one
Like CS have that.
yeah like
Like
one
they do like top-down views of bomb sites and stuff. It's cool.
yeah like one on the bomb, so you could have like one in a really obvious spot in lobby looking down where, but obviously normal players couldn't see it, just the observer, and you could get some really cool shots from that.
It's just like what I was saying before with the chalet angle from master to the big pillar. But what you were saying, Flea, about how much more info you get from like a wide perspective rather than first person when it's 5v5, that just made me think. You remember that from last APAC LAN, Irons versus Cryptic, it was 6-5, 6-4, 6-5, 6-5. It was the last round. There were literally 14 seconds on the clock, and we were spectating, I don't know who it was, one of the Irons players who was playing Ying, and he was about to jump in on Cafe. Like, I have that clip exactly ingrained into my brain because it was edited for the intro to this podcast, so I watched that one over and over. But like, that was in first-person perspective, a 5-on-5. This guy jumps in, he gets a knife, and he shoots one person, and then the round's over. But there were at least 6 to 8 kills in that time, and we saw 2 of them. I mean, yeah, it was super exciting because you see this guy going like, "Holy shit, there's someone right there, knife," and then like pull out his gun and shoot another one and get the flicks and stuff. But you don't get the overall feel, and then kind of it just ends, and you're like, "Oh, did they kill the rest of them, or did the timer run out?" So I definitely agree with you on that one.
All right, moving this back towards more of away from the casting perspective, we can actually get,
Get the cast.
We've only
so-
talked about it
in
for
the
30
conversation.
minutes.
As a professional player, Magnet, and being able to use the new ops in the LAN this weekend, there's been a lot of negativity around, particularly around Vigil in the ANZ scene. Internationally, we heard last week that EU and ENCE in particular are really looking forward to using Vigil. We've got a lot of negativity around Vigil being a more useless operator. How are you guys planning on the 3 new ops going in?
So first of all, like Vigil, he's more of like to throw the attack off because you don't know if he's on top floor, middle floor, or bottom floor. Especially, just like you don't know where he's gonna be, and it takes just extra time to either wait for his ability to time out, or just go in a room and actually try to kill him with your actual body rather than going in with a drone. That can waste a lot of time as well. But I don't actually think he's that useless, even though people have said that. It's more of a time wasting, and it really comes down to how well that player is able to use Vigil. Because obviously, if he's running around and you can hear him, then you know exactly where he is.
Yeah, we saw a ton of it from Lanchineta, who's my new favorite team, by the way. The Brazilian team that just won the... They ran a blitz and got like blitz 3Ks and 4K. Like, I'm sold. But they were running a Vigil pretty consistently and doing really well with that as well. And I think it comes down to exactly what you were saying is, yeah, you know he's around there because you have the disruption, which is what everyone thought originally. Vigil's not going to be used because of the effect that you get on your drone. But if you get that effect and you're in, say, Oregon, right, and it's a basement attack and there's a Vigil sitting up in kids' dorms and you get that effect, you don't know, is he in kitchen? Is he in dining? Is he in kids' dorms? Is he in small dorms? Like, where is he? Is he on white stairs? And then you have to move in with a person, like you said, and it delays time. And it gives you a risk of having to breach a room without having knowledge of what's inside it.
Yeah, also what Billboard has said in the chat, Vigil is also very map dependent as well, which definitely I agree. There are certain maps that he's really, like sort of closer closer quarter maps with like little space between areas, like Bank, you sort of like you'd get an idea of pretty much of exactly where he'd be.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said on Oregon, you wouldn't know where he is upstairs, downstairs. Like I've had to drone dorms, and there'd be like a really strong visual signal. I don't know if he's up there, and then I don't know if he's in kitchen either. So you always just have
Yeah.
to be wary when you do see that.
So, oh, the other thing
Other
is
operators?
Vigil doesn't matter because I don't drone. Full stop.
Monkey. Monkey, one day I'm gonna pull up that clip. One day I'm gonna pull up that clip of one day you and me were playing ranked, and you were playing Ash,
No.
and you sat there with you had 1 HP and it was a 1v5 or something like that, and you pulled out your like grenade launcher and you're about to open the wall into the site. It hits the monitor right in front of you and you explode. It was fucking beautiful.
It was hilarious, but
I need to
Yeah.
get that clip sometime and just show everyone.
I don't think any of you guys thought it was going to hit the monitor either. Like, let's be real.
No, I knew. I heard that boom, and I'm like, nope. Oh shit, he's dead. But like back on Vigil, if you like you're roaming right, and you're in a place where you don't know whether he's in kids' dorms or kitchen or whatever, if you can manage to actually get back to site, for example, on Oregon, if you're at basement defense, you get back into the what's the site called? Supply room. You get back into supply room and you put that on. They don't know if you're in meeting. And if you actually have, like, say you have a bandit playing, like, or you have, like, some kind of hard meeting hold strat with castles or mirrors or something, if you have your Vigil going up there, then they don't know, is there just the one in there, or is Vigil in there as well? And that, I mean, I like the idea of using him as an anchor that's pretending to be a roamer as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Vigil can be extremely versatile. I know I definitely get frustrated trying to drone out a Vigil, trying to work out exactly where he is so we can corner him off. And I think if, especially as like really teams and particularly pairings that are really good with at roaming. So if you get like a Moogie and Ema in on a Vigil and Ella roaming around, like they're a fantastic pair in roaming. Like if you can get them on Vigil and Ella supporting each other, like how much time can that waste? And I think we are going to see a bit of Vigil come out both this weekend and in Montreal.
So, moving on a little bit, we had the official patch notes for the mid-season reinforcements come out, and obviously TTS is currently live. I'm sure we're all, well, those of us who actually want to try it out, currently downloading 30 gigabyte update for the TTS.
Yeah, what the hell?
Why?
That's not 30, is it? That's disgusting.
Yeah, you told me
It's
you weren't going to...
It's 34 gig without the HD texture pack.
I'm still getting it anyway, Skye, and you're going to download it so you play it with me. Because otherwise I'm not going to play with you and you're going to cry. So...
Think about all the other ways I could use those 34 gigabytes.
But like, as for the patch notes, pretty long awaited, especially recently sparked on Twitter by one of Fabian's comments about Ella. Like, people have been demanding this Ella nerf for a long time. Finally, it's been announced. And we have Magnet disappearing, but it's okay. He'll be back. Magnet, you're back. Alright. Ella's nerf is going to be, she gets 10 less bullets in her 51 bullet mag, so it's now a 40 bullet mag. And the... Quick maths, yeah. Someone's gonna pull me up for not counting the one. I didn't count that because it's a chambered bullet, and I didn't want to count that. And shut up, you're being pedantic.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
So, and then on top of that, the effect, the DPI switch or the sensitivity switch effect, and the what was the other? The
duration effect.
Yeah, so the duration has been reduced to 4 seconds, but only for the sensitivity change and for the movement speed. However, the sound and visual effect will still be full 7 seconds. And you'll now be able to sprint while concussed, and that affects both Sophia and Ella. Now, which of those, like, how is this going to change Ella? And is this going to do the trick, or is there going to need to be more done?
I think this needs to have a further nerf going in. The Scorpion was an amazing gun, but I think what threw Ella over the top was her incredible utility, right? Like the concussion the concussion effect was just so strong, and I think the biggest thing about it is actually the DPI change. I don't know how many times that DPI change has made me miss a shot, or or got me killed.
Sure, it's the DPI change.
Yeah. But like I think that the DPI change is the thing that put it over the top, and I don't think I think that it being half to 4 seconds is going to be an incredible nerf to the Grismont mines. And
I actually think it's pretty fair. Like even at its 7
think it's
seconds.
A good start point.
I honestly don't think Ella's too overpowered. Like there's been plenty of times where I have been hit by the Grismont mine and I've still gotten the frag. Maybe I'm just good, maybe Flea's just bad, but we'll leave it up in the air to interpretation. But there's only 3 of these things that can go anywhere on the map. You just got to play smarter. Like, Siege is not a game where just because you have better aim, you should win every gun duel. They have to utilize their utility to win that gun duel against you. Like, if you're fully flashbanged, does anyone complain about their screen being white and they can't aim back? No, because that's how the flashbang works. Like, this is how the Grismont works. It's meant to help Ella get the frags or whatever, or disorient the opponent. DPI change, like, yeah, it's tough, but when you're prone, your DPI is different. Don't go prone if you don't want a DPI change. Don't run into an Ella mine if you don't want a DPI change.
That's why I don't drop shot, hey.
Oh yeah, I don't drop shot either.
No, but like I do think that when coupled, the DPI change specifically coupled with Ella's high round mag and the fact that she's laser point accurate, is one of the things that I think it just becomes a bit too much. Like, you don't put flashbangs on people who have incredible weapons, even though Ash does the RC4.
How about this, right? Maybe a potential nerf or make it more balanced. The Grismont lets off a beep every so often,
So
like
it's
a
there.
C4 does.
I actually don't mind that idea.
Audio cue that it might be there.
So like for example, if you're comparing the trap operators, right? Ella in comparison to Legion is reasonably easy to shoot. It's not hard to find. Like, I mean, yes, it's hard to see it straight up, but if you know where it is, you can take it out super easy because you can't hide a Legion mine. Like, you can't put it somewhere that it's impossible to shoot. Whereas Ella mines, you can put them above doorways in such a way that the only way to take down that Ella mine is either with a Twitch or a Thatcher, or going around and not using that doorway. And to be able to negate an entire doorway, that's just too much. And if you don't know that the Ella mine is on that doorway, then that's even more. And I really like that idea of just doing the same thing that they do for C4. Make it emit a noise. I think that would... And honestly, if they do the current patch notes, and they also make it so Ella's mine beeps so that you know where it is, and they also remove the DPI change, and they reduce the mag to 31 bullets, I think she will still be one of the best operators in the game. Even with that hard nerf.
Make it work like a smoke babe. Like, you have to plant it and then you have to trigger it rather than it getting triggered automatically.
Yeah, I saw that on
Get flanked. Yeah.
video.
Look, I like the idea,
So,
but
turn it into almost like a smoke babe?
Yeah.
Thing is, I don't like about that.
Out at a time.
Thing I don't like about that though is that I like the fact that one of the things I do like about Ella is that it's an alarm system, whereas that's removing that component from it. And at the moment we have Legion, that's an alarm system, barbed wire, that's an alarm system, but to a lesser extent, so it's easy to not make much noise in barbed wire. Like, there aren't many operators that are like alarm systems. So I think, I mean, it's one route of fixing Ella, but I personally don't think it's the right route to go down.
Personally, I think that the emitter sounds a really good idea, because there's so many spots where you can put an Ella mine, but like it's not really viable to run in and sort of look up at a door and shoot it. Whereas like if it emits a sound, you know it's there, and you know that it's probably not a good idea to go through that doorway. But yet the door, if you don't play smart and you wait to the last second, you have to rush through there, you're gonna get punished.
Yeah, like, even the fact that you know that there's an Ella mine on a doorway isn't going to change the fact that if you don't play smart, you're going to have to run into it at the end, like you said. So I mean, it still punishes that last minute rush and it punishes lack of preparation, but at least you're aware, you know, and it might mean that Thatcher is a more legitimate way to get rid of Ellas, because now you have to drone out the Ella mines in order to know where to throw the Thatcher grenades. Maybe Twitch drones are going to be much more useful for taking down Ella mines.
Not anymore.
Well, I mean, if you like, okay, so moving on in the patch notes away from Ella onto Twitch, right? Only 5 stuns now, down from 15 per drone. 5 stuns. How many stuns does it take to take down a mirror? 1.
Okay. The thing is, nerfing the Twitch drone is not going to nerf Twitch. The reason why she's picked is purely because, well, half is just because of her gun. Come on, like, that is one of the highest DPS guns in the game. It's the easiest to kill someone with, other than Ella's gun. But yeah, like, they just definitely should have done something about the FAMAS rather than the Twitch drone. Yeah.
I think it's perfectly justified. Like, for now, if you're going to pick Twitch, it is purely just going to be a counter to Mirror, because, you know, most high-tier teams aren't just going to pick an op just for their gun. They're going to have at least some use for their utility. Like, Season 1, I remember when Twitch was firmly in the meta, just because there was no other ops that you needed in terms of utility, so you would take her for a gun. But now there's so many options and so many different strats, you can't really afford to have those kind of flex picks.
And also, although I like the idea of making you have to sort of expend those sort of shocks a lot more smartly, I'm not sure that 5 is the right way to go about it. Maybe if you're going to give it a 5, allow her to use them like a lot more quickly, rather than having that little cooldown, maybe like half that or something, just so it can be used a lot more quickly.
Maybe like this might be a bit fantastical, like, but have them like spread out over the 2 drones. So like if one gets 1 shots off, the other one can still have 9 shots, just to keep it, you know.
Honestly, don't know if that'll make a
fairer,
difference.
maybe? I don't know. Even if it is a tad unrealistic, if you think of it like that.
I don't know if that would actually help at all. It doesn't really give you anything more, except for the fact that if you suicide your first drone, you don't get punished as much for it. So I don't know.
Like, you know, maybe I'm a bad Twitch, but I don't think I've ever let off more than 5 shots if I'm not mucking around missing default cams.
Yeah,
or just
that's
pinging.
what I was going to say.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to get all those shots off without your drone being killed. Even now, it's so hard to get mirrors sometimes because they're on the lookout.
Plus,
so yeah,
as soon as you fire 1 shot with the Twitch, they get the laser, like they get the beam, they get the residual taser. What do you call it? Whatever.
So
you know, yeah.
Talking about the direction Twitch is going to go, then does Twitch go into the first Twitch drone? Is there simply to deny vision and take out cameras? Moving on from there, your second Twitch drone is a suicide drone to get rid of the most important mirror on the map. Is that the direction Twitch runs into? Is she going to be a glorified?
Isn't that the direction Twitch is now? Like you take out 1 mirror, your Twitch is pretty much gone. Like you're pretty lucky if you can get a second mirror or even some more gadgets, maybe 10 damage to the guy sitting behind the mirror.
Do you need to remove the versatility that she has now because you don't get the shots off generally? Like, do you deny the option because that's not how it's done at the moment?
It's just because people are picking Twitch.
I don't see why they've done this, because as a Twitch main myself, like I was playing last night, and I managed to actually get a fair chunk of utility off the table. I actually even managed to hit a C4 in midair with my Twitch drone.
I remember
Yeah,
that.
that's because you're silver.
Like, I'm not silver.
I think it's more
But,
just
like,
to stop
you don't-
like lower skilled players from just twitching everything.
Yeah.
They've got as many as they want, but
But
it just
but
like
is
it won't affect the pro scene at all. Honestly.
Is it right to remove but the conversation is it right to remove the option of these fantastic Twitches because that's not how it happens in Pro League at the moment? Right? Like, do you remove the option of
You're
this
just
happening
getting too much
because
value,
generally
is what they're
it doesn't
saying.
happen?
You're getting too much value. You're getting a great gun. You're getting the ability to deny pretty much any piece of utility they throw out there. Whereas now you can only deny a small amount of utility. You've got to pick what.
But the argument is you're going to get the same amount of stuff out of it anyway, because most Twitch drones are going to die. I mean, in 90% of my games, I consider myself a Twitch main. In 90% of my games, I'll only get 1 or 2 pieces of utility out of it. Right? Like, is it even worth nerfing the Twitch drone off that fact? Because it I don't know.
I don't really see it as a nerf. I just see it as more of a limitation. Like, going on from the idea of limiting the amount of Twitch drone tasers, I was thinking, why don't we limit the amount of mags that people can use? Like, not magnet, but like, limit the amount of mags. So give each operator 3 mags, like in tactical realism. Then people are really going to have to think about what they're doing with their bullets.
I mean, that just changes the name of the game. Because at a high level, at the high level, everything is pre-fire. And you use a whole mag to open up one door, just so that you put pressure on, and you waste a whole mag through a pre-fire because you know you have that. Recently, they like in a couple patches ago, they actually just increased the number of mags most operators take. So I mean, I know about that.
I just think it would be an interesting way to play the game, where like, you know, in I don't know, do real special op force, whatever, have
get some tac realism game modes.
Yeah. Yeah, in tactical realism, it's good fun with just 3 mags. You got to think about what you got to use your ammo on, and
two ways.
It just.
Yeah. There's 2 ways that this Twitch nerf is actually going to affect anything. It's 1, you're not going to be able to go around and take out every single camera in the map during the prep phase, and 2, you're not going to be able to sit there and take someone down to 20 HP, which is exactly what Magnet said. It's exactly what Billboard said in the comments. It's not going to nerf the pro players. It's just going to be a nerf to those lower skill players who are running around being like, where am I getting shocked from? And I was playing with my mate the other day, my real life mate who is kind of new to Siege. And in prep phase, he was reinforcing something. He's like, why am I taking damage? What is this? Why is my screen going fuzzy? And I'm like, oh yeah, there's a Twitch drone. I mean, lower skill players are just going to take advantage of that. And likewise, Magnet is taking advantage of the fact that the Twitch chat is telling him to make a nest quick. Look, we're not promoting Nestle. Nestle do not sponsor us. However, Nestle, if you'd like to sponsor us, I'd like you to contact me via Twitter DM at Devmarta R6. Thank you.
And if you want to send me some free Nesquik, just call me.
I've been waiting for this Nesquik for so long.
Well,
I need it. It's an addiction now.
So
I didn't have milk then. Anyways.
I think we're going to wrap up in a moment. Please, do you have something else you want to talk about before you wrap?
Yeah, I did want to talk about the bandit barbed wire. Was the other thing, right? Like removing that 3rd barbed wire. There was a big chat about it today in R6 ANZ, and I know there's been a big chat on Twitter going on. There's been a lot of, there's been a fair bit of flame on there for it. Magnet, do you want to shed some thought process onto it?
Well, they're just. At the moment, yes, Bandit's being picked for his barbed wire, but I don't think it's going to make much difference at all. It just means that it'll be like in level with the other defense operators. Yeah, it's just like one less barbed wire, but at the moment there's so many operators that can get rid of barbed wire. Zofia, we got nades, we got Ash, we got a lot of things.
Like, I really don't feel like one barbed wire is going to win you the round or lose you the round.
No,
in most situations.
Yeah.
I think the removal of it was a little. I think it sets a bad precedent towards homogenizing the game. I like operators that tend to have something different about them. I really like the fact that the Polish operators have, they have a down but not out ability, right? Like
really,
Alec can set off the Grismot and Zofia can last stand herself.
I personally hate both
HP.
of those.
Right,
They're running it right now.
Yeah, I like the fact that there's differences in the game. I like the fact that Bandit has a 3rd barbed wire, and I've said it in the past. I would like to see an operator get a 3rd reinforcement or something like that. Like I like the uniqueness of different operators, and I'm scared that this sets a precedent of homogenizing uniqueness out of the game.
Like I think you got to either take the view of we need a bare bones game where shooting skill is important, or we need a game with all these special abilities that have their own synergies between them, and that's what makes the game exciting. So I suppose for me, Rainbow Six kind of stands between Overwatch and Counter Strike in those regards.
I think you put that really well, Monkey.
Yeah, like it's a mixture of both. So you're gonna have special abilities, and some of them are gonna rock, some of them are gonna suck, and like. I don't even know if this is true or not, but I heard it somewhere that like in the beta or something, like the GIGN operators could like hold a button and yell at each other to get them to get up from down but not out, rather than actually having to approach them or something like that. I never played the beta, but I heard about that, and I think that was a nice little touch, like to have in maybe just because just like perks for each thing like that for each, what are they called, CTUs?
Yeah. Well, I guess if you're going to do that, then you probably should just make it so the Russian operators, when they die, they can just, like, get up and not die. And then the next time that they die, they can kind of just, like... No. Jokes aside, I actually do definitely see a point. And the idea that you threw around there, amFlea, about giving, like, an extra reinforcement to some people, like, I like the idea of having maybe one speeds getting an extra reinforcement, because then you decide, all right, we're going to total a bit more. Let's abuse the fact that, like, that we are going to pick 3 one-speed operators like Doc, Rook, Echo, or like a Mirror or whatever, and bringing in more reinforcement. And in the end, it kind of nerfs itself. Like, it increases your setup time, and the fact that one-speeds are in such a weak position at the moment kind of like means that's okay, I guess. And on the whole, it also would mean that some sites would become more viable. For example, the number of times we played Tower in Ranked and gone the restaurant Bird Room. You remember how it's like there's always that one guy who's like, all right, we need 3 people to reinforce this back wall because it's 6 panels. And there's always that one guy that's just like, oh no, reinforce the other side because no. Like, if you bring that, like, you increase that, you're like, oh, if you bring this set of operators, they can reinforce all of the hatches and all of the walls and put some off site as well. It's like, I like that idea. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
And I think going to Tower with that, you know, Tower specifically is a very different map to everything else. Like, I think it's impossible to clear the whole of Tower map and condense it down to the bomb site. And so you could argue that you could have it where you have an extreme roam team or you have an extreme anchor team. And I think anchoring the sites on Tower are really, really good for anchoring, in my opinion. And you know, so having a heavier team with more reinforcements would be very beneficial on Tower specifically.
I think the other day Beer Scotch said this in R6 ANZ. We were talking about just this and about extra reinforcements. And he said that he can't think of any other actual sites on any other map except for Tower where you would be able to use those reinforcements. But I do like the idea of sort of using them on the roam and sort of not just reinforcing site, reinforcing other rooms around the map to assist roamers.
I can think of some sites.
I think if you give players more utility options, they will find ways to use them.
Definitely,
I mean, that's the whole point. You've got to maximize your utility usage. That's how you win.
Definitely on border, you can't with the default reinforcements. You can't reinforce Armory, Archives, all of Fountain, Glaswall, the desk, and the wall facing CCTV. Which is ideally you kind of want to reinforce all those. Maybe not Glaswall, depending on your strat. But, like, you can't reinforce every last one of those, and maybe you have some other reinforcements outside. Some people like to reinforce the exterior wall of offices, where a lot of teams like to run in. If you had extra reinforcements, you could kind of consider things like that. Maybe sites that are less viable, typically, sites like customs, inspection on border, and other sites, maybe they'd be more viable. I don't know, maybe people would actually look at doing different kind of... I don't know, like, you put the option out there, maybe it'll do it. And if it turns out that maybe it doesn't actually help, then you haven't really done any harm by giving them that extra power, really. So I don't know, really. Anyhow, I think that's about the spot where we will actually wrap it up. We talked pretty much overall about the patch notes. We didn't even talk about the Ashe nerf, but that's because it wasn't really anything to talk about.
Negligible, yeah.
2 points of damage, guys. 2 points.
It might matter against like 3 armors with armor, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, in the long run, that's not the problem with Ashe, you know. So, anyhow,
Just shoot her in the head.
Oh, god damn it. Don't even get me started, dude. Alright, so we're going to wrap it up. Thank you very much to all the viewers who've joined us. I think this is about a record for how many viewers we've had. So thank you, all of you guys, from all of us, for sticking in, hanging in there for about an hour and a half, and watching us talk about stuff despite all the technical issues which we managed to get through. And thank you very much to all of the guests. Obviously, Skye, my co-host, Magnet, Flea, and Monkey. Bit of an interesting one, but, you know, I'm super stoked for the LAN this weekend, even though I'm not actually going to be there. Unlike all of you guys. Yeah.
Sorry, Dev.
Let's start a ghost hunt to get Dev to LAN.
Bit late, isn't it?
No joke, I actually looked up flights. It would have cost me $200 and something to go, but the problem is no spectator spots, so... Oh, well.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
Yeah. No, you guys would have had to smuggle me in. I don't think Kameen would have liked that very much. So. Any,
Please hold a viewing party or something in R6 ANZ.
yeah, maybe I'll do that. Jeebus promised me that he'd live stream the event to me personally because he said he bought a whole bunch of data on his phone just for that. So I'm going to hold him to his word on that one. And you guys are going to get constant messages from me spamming like, hey guys, what's happening now? What's happening now? Have you done this yet? Have you done that yet? How's MC going? How's Ben Green? Say hi from me.
We gotta keep him MC.
That's really the only thing you care about, LAN, is seeing MC.
Oh
MC.
yeah. Oh man. The flipper of coins himself. Anyhow,
Maybe, sorry, just before we finish, maybe
Yeah.
we could all just give a prediction for LAN. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that'd be interesting.
That is such a good idea.
Magnet, kick it off.
Don't start with me.
I'll go first. I'm gonna predict Cryptic. I think Cryptic are the strongest team at LAN. They very narrowly missed out on Irons, who destroyed the rest of APAC last time. I think Cryptic will be victorious this weekend.
I'm gonna go with Mantis purely just because they've gone overseas themselves. They were the dark horse last time, and you know they did stomp Mindfreak, so maybe we'll see that again. That's my guess.
PTSD, dude. You can't say that.
I'll see you at LAN.
Sorry,
Mate.
but my Australian heart is gonna be in supporting Mindfreak.
Anyway, yeah, Skye, you're up, dude.
Magnet's relying on me. I'm just gonna go completely out there. I'm just gonna say that Nora Rango.
Yeah. Are you just going for equality right now?
Yeah, just because why not?
All right. Well, honestly, I think
we know who Dev has to pick now.
you guys have cornered me into this, and I'm gonna get. Hey, I'm not gonna be at LAN. You can't do anything. You can't touch me.
Mindfreak.
Mantis, I think, have lost their ability of being a dark horse. I don't think they're going to get underestimated this time. That said, they are a great team, and they win their gunfights, and they don't seem to get tilted. And I think that's going to play for them very well, especially the not getting tilted part, because like you can never underestimate the ability of running on a wave of enthusiasm and then getting down if you don't have that. Nora Rango, I think are a decent team. I don't know. Blah, blah, blah. Cryptic, like Flea said, got so close to Irons, and I wouldn't be surprised if they show up really strong. And Mindfreak have Riz. Obviously, there's a change to their roster, but I don't know. Like Magnet said right when we open this, it can go either way depending on how teams show up on the day. And I think that, from our Aussie patriotism, if you guys want to take this, you guys are going to have to really have the right mentality. You're going to have to go in there like being confident that confident in yourselves and in your teammates, but you've got to not sit there just saying, all right, this is going to be a walk in the park, because sometimes that will punish you if you do that.
So you're going to answer the question? What team do you think is going to win? No sitting on the fence here, Dev.
I like the fence. It's nice and comfortable and safe. I don't know.
You got to pick a team.
Cryptic then. I'm going to vote Cryptic. Sorry, Magnet.
Oh, it feels bad. No one went for Mindfreak.
Okay.
Alright, I'm changing. I'm supporting Mindfreak.
I'll change as well. Let's all support Mindfreak.
Everyone go Mindfreak.
It'd be great if we have a little bit of support, but
Hey, I'm going to be going for you, doesn't mean...
Chat, don't worry. Chat's got my back anyway. Just for you guys. Anyway, based on scrims, based on leading up to this event, how everyone's preparing, anyone can win. Obviously, we're gonna try our best. We want that win. We want to go to invitationals. I also have a feeling that if whoever comes second does really well, then a wild card spot is like probable there. I don't know how many APAC teams they want to send, but I'm hoping it's going to be whoever comes second. But yeah, anyone can win. We're going to try and get that. And it's just basically who shows up on the day, like I said before.
I definitely think the wildcard would be good, because out of 16 teams, if only 2 of them are APAC, then that's not balanced. So
I demand my representation.
yeah, exactly. We should
No,
16 teams. There should be 4 from each region.
One of the wildcard teams is definitely going to go to Font.
Yeah.
And Rogue. Rogue are gonna get a wild
I
card.
don't know.
No doubt about it.
But yeah, anyway, we'll wrap that up.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much to all the viewers for joining us today. Massive turnout, like I said. You guys are still stuck. We've had 4 more viewers since the last time I tried to wrap up, so I don't know if you guys just tuned in. I think Cthulhu was in there, so sorry you couldn't come on tonight. Cthulhu had an unfortunate last-minute commitment, but, we got Flea, so I guess we'll scrape the bottom of the barrel and just make that work anyhow. So
We only get.
I love you, Flea.
I tried to trash talk, and then halfway through I realized it was just gonna be terrible. So I
Yeah.
didn't
All right.
bother.
All right. Well, let's just wrap up before we embarrass ourselves anymore. Thanks everyone for watching. Thank you everyone. I've already done this intro. Thanks for being here as always, guys, and I'll catch you next time.
See you guys.